Accra gets busy on this frequency. 92.7 3 FM.
Hello, good morning and welcome to Business News on Sunrise. Coming up this morning, Occupy Bank of Ghana protesters resolute after being swerved by BOG boss.
Printed up to 80 billion Ghana cedis in 2 years without recourse to Parliament.
Also, economists at the University of Ghana Business School, Professor Lord Mensah, call out top hierarchy of the central bank for swerving Occupy Bank of Ghana demonstrators.
That should tell you the kind of value the governor and the two deputies places on the taxpayer.
Plus, governments urged to ensure transnational corporations are accountable to the citizens following the establishment of the African Continental Free Trade Area. Manu Afful will bring you the details of our headlines and many other stories shortly. Thank you for staying with us. In our first story, the minority in Parliament has accused Bank of Ghana Governor Dr. Ernest Addison of disrespect. The governor did not show up to meet the Occupy BOG demonstrators to petition at his office. The minority in Parliament are calling for the resignation of the governor and his deputies for what protesters described mismanagement of the bank, the banking and financial sector, and the general economy. Minority Leader Ato Forson stated the central bank boss and his deputies have mismanaged monetary policy.
They have actually mismanaged the affairs of the central bank. They have mismanaged the affairs of monetary policy. Today, Ghana, our beloved country, is on 80 nails. You are not the one responsible, and we will not give you our petition. Let me also say that, in summary, this governor and this Bank of Ghana, led by Governor Addison, has unilaterally printed up to 80 billion Ghana cedis in 2 years without recourse to Parliament. Aside, they have unilaterally written off about 48 billion Ghana cedis being government debt. Let me say that all of this was done without parliamentary approval.
He hinted the minority will see to it that Dr. Addison does not get cooperation anytime he seeks help from the House.
If he thinks that the IMF is more important than the Parliament of Ghana, if he thinks that the IMF is more important than the people of Ghana, he's here because of the people of Ghana and not IMF. So let him deal with IMF, but we'll come after him. We will come after him. Until we see him, we are not stopping.
That was minority leader and Occupy Bank of Ghana protester Ato Forson. In more stories, economist at the University of Ghana Business School, Professor Lord Mensah, has said the refusal of the top hierarchy of Bank of Ghana to accept petitions from the demonstrators show the kind of value they place on the taxpayer. The excuse from the central bank is that the governor and his two deputies were in an IMF meeting. He noted this posture is untenable.
That should, tell you the kind of value the governor and the two deputies places on the taxpayer. Those on the streets are not ordinary people. They are there for a purpose. They're not just, on the street for jamboree or kind of, to walk around, but they are there to present their grievances. Having, understood that all the economic merits, it's as a result of Bank of Ghana relaxing its mandate, the core mandate of a typical bank, and then giving too much respect to the executive and the government of this country. So, at least if you are meeting the IMF, one deputy with, the governor can do that. And then possibly, one of them comes to take up, the petition to show that kind of, respect.
You heard Professor Lord Mensah of the University of Ghana Business School. We'll stay a while on the Bank of Ghana. As an economist at the University of Ghana Business School, Professor Godfred Bokwin has also observed the happenings at the Bank of Ghana are reflections of the general economy. He noted the central bank cannot be observed from the current economic downturn facing the country.
Largely, you can associate with the sentiment that from a technical and professional point of view, it has been our position for some time now that the central bank has been too accommodating. That for this level of crisis, this level of, if you see what has happened to the balance sheet of the central bank, it's a reflection of the general economic crisis. And therefore, for something like this to happen, they certainly have to take the supportive role of the central bank to physical slippages or excesses for it to happen. And once you see it from that perspective, then it means that the checks and balances in terms of monetary side and the fiscal side have been compromised. And therefore, it's very difficult to absorb the central bank from all of this. And I personally, even before the minority held their position, more than 6 months ago or so, we had maintained that the central bank's performance has been suboptimal and that they could have done better.
That was Professor Godfred Bokwin of the University of Ghana Business School. And away from that, banking consultant Dr. Richmond Etiahene says until inflation reduces, the real return on investment will remain negative. He has therefore called on government to take steps to create a stable macroeconomic environment. This comes on the back of Bank of Ghana's latest summary of economic and financial data regarding the decreasing level of interest rates on savings, contrary to lending rates.
If you invest even in treasury bill and inflation is 40%, you'll have a negative return close to about 7 or 8%. So it is very important that we bring inflation down. Other than that, the time will come, as I've said, if the interest rate, the inflation continue to persist, we might find a decrease. If you look at the deposit structure of the bank, we may see decline in the savings component of the deposit structure in a shorter or medium term time. The banks will have no alternative because there will be reduction in the savings deposits, and that will help. The banks will have to reprice it, and definitely the lending rate will definitely go up. The higher treasury bill rates is basically crowding out the banks from cheaper funds so that they can lend cheaper to their customers. Most people are not saving in the banks as such. They've all decided to turn to the treasury bill rates, the treasury bills, because the treasury bill has a higher rate.
You heard banking consultant Dr. Richmond Etiahene. In more stories, Deputy Attorney General Diana Asonaba Dapa says governments must ensure transnational corporations are accountable to the citizens following the establishment of the African Continental Free Trade Area. She made the comment in Accra as dignitaries from across the African continent met in the capital to deliberate on a UN draft report on transnational corporations along the value chain.
The Africa Regional Intercongressional Consultation on the United Nations Legal Binding Instrument on Human Rights and Businesses seeks to make transitional corporations answerable for their actions. Key demand raised by civil society organizations is a call for the treaty to focus on transnational corporations and to cover the entire value chains of their activities. Deputy Attorney General Dinah Asonaba Dapa said such laws are needed for a successful Africa continental free trade area.
So you realize that we talked about issues of financial liability, criminal liability for these transnational corporations. It is not much about the profit that is baked in. If all these lobbies, all these financial institutions that come in, their operations traverse issues of human rights, then it's imperative that we address it.
Country Director of Action Aid, John Nkwao, nor the activities of big firms have ravaged communities where they operate without sanctions.
Transnational corporations must mainstream accountability mechanisms into their operations to ensure that when they are going into communities, how do the operations affect communities? How does the company put in practice or in a strategy or a plan that will address the livelihood security of the people?
That was a 3 Business Desk report. Now take a listen to how the cedi is faring against major trading currencies and how some of our key commodities are faring on the global market.
On the interbank foreign exchange market, where banks trade amongst themselves, the dollar recorded no price change and is selling at 11 cedis 15 pesos. The British pound lost 2 pesos, selling at 13 cedis 52 pesos. The euro recorded no price change and is selling at 11 cedis 71 pesos. However, be guided that these figures will be higher at a forex bureau near you. On the global commodities market, price of cocoa is down by 2.11%, selling at $3,428 per ton. Brent crude oil is up by 0.42%, selling now at about $91 per barrel, while the price of an ounce of gold is down by 0.3%, selling at about $1,825.
That was an update from the Forex and commodities markets. That will be all for Business News on Sunrise. For more business stories, please check out our website, 3news.com. I am Manu Afful. Stay tuned. Sports News is up next.